This is Astropad Workbench running on my iPad. It basically turns my iPad into a remote portal for any Mac that I own. So, is this any good? Can you do real work with it? Does it feel like a real Mac running on your iPad? And what are the trade-offs? And why would you use this over Apple's own Sidecar feature? Let's dive in.
This is Brad. He likes to review the tech. He also likes to draw. And this here is his theme song.
This is marketed as an AI tool because everything is now. And if you have tried to buy a Mac Mini recently, you've probably noticed you can't. They're sold out everywhere. Apple can't make these things fast enough, but the M4 Mac Mini specifically is being gobbled up by developers who want to run small AI models locally without breaking the bank. So marketing this as an AI thing actually kind of makes a little bit of sense, because if you have an always-on Mac Mini and you need a monitor for it, or a monitor that can handle KVM switching so you can bounce between two computers really easily, multiple computers, those monitors tend to cost a lot more. So this is a virtual monitor that steps in to fill that gap. Of course, we're talking about me here, so I also wanted to see, can we draw on it? The answer is sure, yeah, you can. Now, if you want to test this out, you can use it for 20 minutes a day for totally free, although my time each day was way more. I'm not sure why. Not complaining. And if you want to use it full time, it's $10 a month or $50 a year. So just because this thing is marketed towards AI people doesn't mean that the rest of us don't get to have fun. Right? It has been my dream to run macOS natively on the iPad for years, or at least since they rolled out the M series processors, I don't know, 5 years ago now? This is as close as I've gotten. It's not perfect, but it's pretty darn close. So there is a lot of remote desktop solutions out there for the iPad. I haven't used them all, but I've used enough of them to have a favorite. And the favorites for me were always Astropad's products. I've been using Astropad on and off for, I don't know, it's been about 10 years now. Has it been 10 years? Oh, look at that baby Brad doing YouTube videos. That's so cute. Their first app was called Astropad, same name as the company, makes sense. And that basically turns your iPad into a second screen for your Mac, kind of like a Wacom tablet. It was designed to be used with the Apple Pencil. Then they took that streaming tech and made this little pink dongle called the Luna display. This basically does the same thing the Workbench does, but it's a hardware solution and it works on your local network. So you have to be pretty close to your Mac in order to use it. That's where Workbench is different. It's like Luna, but it's completely hardware free and only works over the internet. So to start, you download this app on your iPad. Then you go to your Mac, you download the app on your Mac. Or you can download this app on as many Macs as you'd like. You just need to create an account with Astropad and log in everywhere that you want to use it. After logging in on your iPad, you're going to find all of the Macs that you've installed Workbench on. And then you just select the one you want to remote into. Now, when you open your desktop here, there's a space at the top and the bottom of the screen because the aspect ratio of the iPad screen is more squares than the aspect ratio of the Mac screen. And there's some options here. You can go full screen, which is going to give you some nice black bars at the top of the bottom, but my favorite feature here, and what makes this actually cool to use, is if you select your display name in the top center, you can choose Unified Display, and that basically turns your iPad screen into its own monitor. And your Mac display perfectly matches the iPad's resolution pixel for pixel, and that's what makes this look and feel so good when you're using macOS on the iPad. Quick note, if you have an iPad and an Apple Pencil, you've probably thought, man, it would be fun to sign up for a cool art class. Learn some new skills, try out some different things. Well, I have a course on my website called Learn to Draw in 60 Days. Every day, a new lesson with homework. We get you in there drawing right away. Go at your own pace and have some fun learning to draw. Our monitor month discount is still running. Enter that at checkout if you'd like to save a little money, and learn more over at bradsartschool.com. Now, the picture quality here is really good, which is kind of what I've expected as an Astropad user. It is super crisp. The colors come through super well. There aren't any artifacting or pixel discoloration around the edges of interface elements or text that you often see on virtual displays. When you're streaming your display, oftentimes things like pure greens or reds or that sort of thing, those core colors start blowing out due to the compression quality. Even streaming video looks surprisingly good, albeit at a much lower frame rate than viewing it natively natively on your Mac. It's worth noting I was testing this on some good internet connections, so it's possible your mileage may vary if you're on your local coffee shop's Wi-Fi. There were times where I was scrolling on a web page and the text that was coming up from the bottom still hadn't quite fully rendered and was slightly blurry, but that only stayed on the screen for a split second before the higher fidelity would pop in. Cool, sounds good, ready to sign up? Well, there are a few things that will give away that you're not running macOS locally. The first is the latency of using this over the internet. If you're used to a buttery smooth 120 frame animation that your MacBook Pro screen is giving you, you're gonna notice this 15 frames per second that you're rocking now. This is especially noticeable when you're minimizing and maximizing windows. The second thing is that this is macOS running inside an iPad window, so a lot of the native iPad interface elements take priority over the macOS elements. For example, I use a lot of hand gestures on my trackpad of my Mac, like 3 fingers swipe between desktop workspaces. If you do that here, the Mac doesn't register it, the iPad does, and you're switching between your iPad workspaces, not your Mac workspaces. Other hand gestures doing the same exact thing. 3 fingers, swipe up. I want to see all of my desktop apps open at once. On the iPad, that takes you back to the home screen. The longer you use this, the more quirks you're going to start to see. I typed the entire script for this video on my iPad through this, and the delete key didn't work when you held it down. I mean, it worked when you pressed it, but you know how when you hold down the delete key, it just goes backwards really quickly? That doesn't work here. You have to hit delete many times if you want to delete a whole sentence or several words. Sound! This is a big one. There's no audio here. Using the Magic Keyboard's trackpad, which is what I was doing here, if I move the mouse cursor down to the bottom of the screen, it never was really sure, should I open up the iPad's dock or should I open up the Mac's dock? There's a very small, maybe 4 pixel window that will actually open up the Mac's dock here because it just wants to open the iPad dock. But what about doing work? It depends on the kind of work you're doing. I spend a lot of time video editing, and sadly, that was a no-go with this setup. Adobe Premiere actually works fine. Navigating it was good. Just overall kind of editing video was fine, but there's no audio streaming, so I was stuck there. I really rely on those audio cues in order to edit video. Using Photoshop to make a thumbnail or work on designs, this was totally usable. Every so often I would run into like that shortcut problem, like Control H hides guidelines in Photoshop, Control H hides your like entire program if you're using it on an iPad. Now I talked about drawing at the top. I did want to use this for drawing, and here it totally works. If you need to do like small touch-ups here and there, or just kind of grab a sketch, you can totally draw in Photoshop. It's fine. My hunch is that if you wanted to make this your primary way of drawing, you would get annoyed really quickly. The latency here takes the fun out of using the Apple Pencil, but it totally works. On its own, drawing in Photoshop isn't bad. It's just that like if you're used to drawing in Procreate on the iPad and you're sketching, you're having fun and everything is just so fast and snappy, and then you jump over to this, that's when you're going to notice that lag. If this was the only thing you were using, you probably wouldn't notice quite as much, but because you have that difference in programs right there, right next to each other on the iPad, it's very noticeable. Okay, so why not just use Sidecar? It's built into all of Apple products already. Well, there's 2 reasons depending on your use cases. The first one is Sidecar is local, so you have to be near your Mac in order for it to work. And it's not truly headless, so you need another monitor already connected to your Mac for it to work. If you're on a MacBook, it's probably not that big a deal. But if you're on a little Mac Mini, that might be a big deal. Now, Sidecar does have some real strengths here. One is it's made by Apple, so it's totally free. It's already integrated to your Mac and your iPad. It truly looks like a second monitor is attached to your computer. It is super crisp. There is some latency, I can tell, but there's not as much latency on that local connection between your Mac and your iPad as there is when you're using Workbench over the internet. Sidecar also has some similar problems here. For example, there's also no audio in Sidecar either. Unfortunately, Sidecar needs a primary monitor already attached to your Mac. It's not truly headless. Now, some people have found ways to hack around this using a headless HDMI dummy plug to trick this into thinking that a monitor is attached so they could get their iPad to run Sidecar. And if you're working in the same room that your Mac is in, this might be worth trying out before going the Workbench route. Sidecar is even solid for drawing. I should say, solid is not great. It's just solid. It's a little better than Workbench, but that latency is just enough that it doesn't feel as organic as using the Apple Pencil on a native iPad app. Also, I think the touch interface on Sidecar is held back by Apple. We use our phones and our iPads all the time. We are so used to the way touch should work on a display. So when you try to scroll a website in Sidecar and it doesn't work the way you expect it to, it's just confusing. When you can tap on some apps and control them but not other apps, there's just a weird disconnect there. The Apple Pencil has a different but equally wrong interaction when you're trying to do the same thing. It's pretty clear Apple only wants you to use this as a second display and doesn't want you to goof around and have fun with it. So overall, I think this is a mixed bag. On one hand, I think it's amazing technology. The fact that this works so well and the image is so crisp and it's all over the internet is pretty darn cool. And if you just need to use your Mac a little bit to interface with it now and then, it's probably going to work really great. If you want to use this as like to turn your computer into a Cintiq that you can use from anywhere, I think that latency is going to bother you. Although you can use it for 20 minutes a day. So if you already have a Mac and an iPad and you want to try it out, you totally should. Otherwise, when we're talking about like those small drawing tasks, if you're already very close to your Mac with your iPad, you're probably better off just going the Sidecar route. But what do you think? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you in a couple of days.